To score more points.
Any way to do that? Will there be more passing, more running?
Johnny Unitas is often called one of the greatest NFL players of all time. His records and achievements were legendary, and many believe they will never be matched. However, his glory came at a great cost as he played in an era before heavy padding and advanced safety measures. The brutal hits he took week after week left him with lasting damage. By the end of his life, his hands were so damaged that he couldn't even hold a football. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe. Toward the end of his life, Johnny Unitas worked to bring attention to the many permanent physical disabilities that he and other players suffered from during their careers. This was before heavy padding, advanced helmets, and other safety features became common in the NFL. Unitas himself lost almost all use of his right hand. His middle finger and thumb were badly disfigured from being broken so many times during games. These injuries were painful reminders of how hard the game had been on his body. In his final years, Unitas struggled with limited mobility. An elbow injury from his playing days left him with very little use of his right hand, and his artificial knees kept him from doing anything too physically demanding, except for golf. Unfortunately, on September 11th, 2002, Unitas passed away from a heart attack while exercising at the Kernan Physical Therapy Center in Baltimore. His death was a sad moment for the world of football, and his funeral was held at the Cathedral of Mary Our Queen, a large church in Baltimore. He was later laid to rest at Dulaney Valley Memorial Gardens in Timonium, Maryland. After his death, there was a huge wave of support to honor his memory. Between the time of his passing and October 4th, 2002, over 56,000 people signed an online petition asking the Baltimore Ravens to rename their stadium after Unitas. However, the stadium's naming rights had already been sold to M&T Bank, so the renaming didn't happen. Still, the Ravens found another way to pay tribute. On October 20th, 2002, they dedicated the area in front of the stadium's main entrance as Unite Us Plaza and unveiled a statue of him at the center of the plaza, ensuring his legacy would live on. This wasn't the only trouble he faced towards the end of his life. In 1991, Unitas and his wife found themselves in serious financial trouble and had to file for bankruptcy protection under Chapter 11. Their court filings revealed that they owed creditors as much as $3.2 million, but their assets totaled only about $1.4 million, showing a big gap between what they owed and what they had. A large part of their financial problems came from a business venture that didn't go as planned. Unitas, along with two business partners, had taken out loans to buy a company called National Circuits, Inc., which produced printed circuit boards. Unfortunately, the company didn't do well and ended up failing, leaving Unite Us with heavy debt from the investment. This business setback, combined with other financial issues, led the Unitas family to seek bankruptcy protection in an effort to manage their debts and rebuild their financial situation. Speaking of his unmatched career,
the hits that Unitas took somehow added to the whole aura.
In 1956, Unitas joined the Baltimore Colts, thanks to a last-minute invitation from his friend Jim Deglau, who was a lineman for the Bloomfield Rams. Both men had to borrow money from friends just to cover the gas for their trip to the Colts tryout. Deglau later recalled that his uncle had advised him against going, worried that if Unitas didn't impress the Colts, it would hurt his chances with other NFL teams. Luckily for Unitas, the Colts signed him, which disappointed the Cleveland Browns, who were also interested in the former Steelers quarterback. Unitas made his NFL debut in a mop-up role against the Detroit Lions, but didn't have the best start, going 0 for 2 with 1 interception. A couple of weeks later, after starting quarterback George Shaw broke his leg during a game against the Chicago Bears, Unitas got a real chance to play. His first pass was intercepted and returned for touchdown, and he fumbled on his next play. Despite this rough beginning, he quickly turned things around. He led the Colts to an upset win over Green Bay and their first victory against Cleveland. That season, Unitas threw 9 touchdown passes, including one in the last game that started his incredible record of 47 consecutive games with a touchdown pass. He also set a rookie record with a 55.6% completion rate. In 1957, Unitas became the Colts' full-time starting quarterback. He had an outstanding season, finishing first in the NFL in passing yards with 2,550 and throwing 24 touchdown passes, helping the Colts achieve their first winning record at 7-5. By the end of the season, Unitas was recognized for his exceptional performance and received the Jim Thorpe Trophy as the NFL's most valuable player from the Newspaper Enterprise Association. In 1958, Unitas continued to shine, passing for 2,007 yards and 19 touchdowns, which helped the Colts win the Western Conference title. On December 28, 1958, he led the Colts to victory in the NFL Championship against the New York Giants. The game ended 23-17 in sudden death overtime, with fullback Alan Ameche scoring the winning touchdown. This match was historic, as it was the first overtime game in NFL history and is often called the greatest game ever played. Its national broadcast on NBC is credited with boosting the popularity of professional football throughout the 1960s. In 1959, Unitas was recognized as the NFL's MVP by the Associated Press and also named United Press International's Player of the Year. He led the league with 2,899 passing yards, 32 touchdown passes, and 193 completions. Unitas then guided the Colts to another championship, making a fourth quarter comeback to defeat the Giants 31-16 in the title game. Fresh off back-to-back championships, Unitas received high praise from the rookie head coach of the Green Bay Packers, Vince Lombardi, who said, "Without him, they're just ordinary. With him, they're great. He's the best quarterback I've ever seen." However, as the 1960s began, the Colts faced challenges, including injuries to key players like Alan Ameche, Raymond Berry, and Lenny Moore. During this time, Unitas' impressive streak of 47 consecutive games with at least one touchdown pass ended against the Los Angeles Rams in Week 11 of the 1960 season. Despite this setback, he passed for over 3,000 yards for the first time and led the league in touchdown passes for the fourth straight year. After a few average seasons, Colts owner Carroll Rosenblum decided to fire coach Weeb Eubank and brought in Don Shula, who became the youngest head coach in NFL history at just 33 years old. In Shula's first season, the Colts finished 8-6, placing third in the NFL's Western Conference, but they ended on a high note by winning their last 3 games. Personally, it was a great season for Unitas, as he led the league in passing yards with a career-high 3,481 and also topped the league in completions with 237. In the 1964 season, the Colts bounced back to the top of the Western Conference. After losing their first game to the Minnesota Vikings, they won 10 straight games, finishing with a strong 12-2 record. Unitas had an impressive season, throwing for 2,824 yards, leading the league with an average of 9.26 yards per pass attempt and tossing 19 touchdown passes with just 6 interceptions. He was named the NFL's most valuable player by both the AP and UPI for the second time. Unfortunately, the season ended on a sour note as the Colts were upset by the Cleveland Browns in the NFL championship game, losing 27-0. In 1965, Unitas continued to excel, passing for 2,530 yards and 23 touchdowns, achieving a career-best passer rating of 97.1. However, his season was cut short by a knee injury in Week 12. With backup quarterback Gary Cuozzo also injured, running back Tom Matt stepped in as the emergency quarterback for the final game in playoffs. The Colts finished tied for first in the Western Conference, but they lost a playoff game against the Packers in overtime, largely due to a controversial field goal. Unitas returned strong in 1966, throwing for 2,648 yards and 22 touchdowns, but he also had a league-high 24 interceptions. The Colts finished second in the Western Conference again. In 1967, they rebounded with an 11-1-2 record, tying the Los Angeles Rams for the best in the NFL. Unitas earned his third MVP award, passing for 3,428 yards and 20 touchdowns. In the 1968 preseason, Unitas suffered an arm injury, but still made an appearance in Super Bowl III, where the Colts lost to the New York Jets, marking a significant moment in NFL history. After an offseason of rehab, he returned in 1969, throwing for 2,342 yards and 12 touchdowns, but leading the Colts to an 8-5-1 record, missing the playoffs again. The 1970 season saw the NFL and AFL merge, and the Colts moved to the American Football Conference. Unitas helped lead the team to an 11-1 record. In Super Bowl V against the Cowboys, the Colts went on to win the game 16-13, with Earl Morrall stepping in for Unitas. In 1971, Unitas shared playing time with Morrall, but the team lost in the AFC Championship game. The 1972 season was challenging, and after a poor start, the Colts fired their coach and benched Unitas. One of Unitas's memorable moments came in his last game with the Colts against the Buffalo Bills. Though he wasn't the starter, fans chanted for him, and he entered the game, throwing a long touchdown pass to wide receiver Eddie Hinton. After the season, he was traded to the San Diego Chargers. In his first season with the Chargers, Unitas struggled, losing the opener and only achieving one win as a starter. He retired during the 1974 preseason. By the end of his 18-season NFL career, Unitas had impressive stats, completing 2,130 passes out of 5,186 attempts for 40,239 yards and 290 touchdowns. He also rushed for 1,177 yards and 13 touchdowns. While he faced struggles with arm injuries in his later years, he still set many passing records, being the first quarterback to throw for over 40,000 yards and to reach 30 touchdown passes in a season. His 47-game streak of throwing at least one touchdown was considered legendary and lasted for 52 years before being broken in 2012. That is it for this one, but if you happen to like NFL legends, make sure to check out our latest videos on our channel NFL Icons. I'm sure you will love it.